The knock came just after sunset, sharp and unexpected. Cutting through the quiet like a question Emily Carter wasn't ready to answer. She froze in the middle of her living room, heart racing even before she reached the door. Some part of her already knew who it was, and that scared her more than being wrong. Emily lived alone in a calm suburb outside Seattle, the kind of place where evenings moved slowly and surprises were rare. Her life was steady, planned, and carefully balanced. She worked hard, came home tired, and told herself that peace was enough. Tonight had been no different till the knock. An hour earlier, she had been standing by the window, watching rain fall in thin silver lines. Her phone buzzed, breaking the quiet. The message was short, polite, and dangerous. Daniel, right? A name she hadn't spoken in years. A name that still knew its way straight to her chest. He wrote that he was in town for one night. That he didn't expect anything. That he just wanted to talk, if she would allow it. Emily stared at the screen longer than she meant to. She thought of all the reasons to say no. The past, the effort it took to move on. The calm she had finally earned. But her fingers typed yes before her mind could stop them. Now, he was here. Emily opened the door slowly. Daniel stood on the porch, rain darkening his jacket, city lights reflecting in his tired eyes. He looked familiar and different at the same time. Older, quieter, like someone who had lived a lot since the last goodbye. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "Hi, Emily," he said. Her name sounded strange coming from him again. Hi. That single word held years of memories, late-night talks, shared dreams, plans that never happened. She stepped aside, letting him in. The door closed behind him, sealing the moment. Inside, the house felt smaller, warmer, too aware of itself. Daniel looked around, careful not to stare. Emily noticed how he stood, unsure where to place his hands, as if he didn't want to disturb anything. She offered him coffee out of habit. He accepted, even though neither of them seemed thirsty. They sat across from each other, mugs untouched. The silence stretched, not awkward, but heavy, full of things unsaid. "I wasn't sure you'd answer," Daniel said. "I wasn't sure I should," Emily replied. He nodded, like he understood more than she had said. They talked about simple things at first. His work, her job. Cities they'd lived in since they last saw each other. It all sounded normal, but nothing felt casual. Every word carried weight. Every pause felt loaded. Emily noticed small details, the way Daniel still tilted his head when he listened. The way his voice softened when he said her name. She hated how easily it all came back. "I didn't come here to reopen old wounds," Daniel said carefully. "I just didn't want to leave town without seeing you." Emily felt a quiet ache. Some doors stay closed for a reason. He met her eyes. And some stay open longer than we expect. The rain grew heavier outside, tapping against the windows like a ticking clock. Emily shifted in her seat, feeling the pull of memory and the fear of what it could undo. She had spent years convincing herself she was fine, that what they had was part of a past chapter, finished and shelved. Yet here he was, sitting across from her, and the story felt unfinished. Daniel leaned forward slightly. "I think about that night a lot. The one where everything changed." Emily looked down. She did too. The night he chose to leave for a job across the country. The night neither of them knew how to fight for what they wanted. "We were different people," she said quietly. "We still are," he replied. "That's why I wanted to talk. Not to go backward, just to understand." She studied his face. There was no pressure in his eyes. Just honesty. And something else, regret, maybe mixed with relief. Emily stood and walked to the window, giving herself space to breathe. The neighborhood lights glowed softly through the rain. She thought of all the evenings she spent alone, telling herself that safe was better than complicated. Behind her, Daniel remained seated, giving her room. That, more than anything, surprised her. "I didn't expect this to be easy," she said. "I didn't expect easy," he answered. "I just hoped for real." She turned back to him, arms crossed loosely, guarding herself without meaning to. "And what if real hurts?" Daniel didn't rush his answer. "Then at least it's honest." The words landed gently but stayed. They sat again, closer this time, though still careful. Emily felt the shift, the subtle change in the room. It wasn't romance, not yet. It was recognition. Two people seeing each other clearly after a long time apart. I used to think inviting you back into my life would break everything I worked for, Emily admitted. Now I realize ignoring you would have done the same. Daniel smiled faintly. You've always been brave. She shook her head. I've just learned how to survive. The clock ticked on the wall louder than before. Time felt fragile, like glass. Daniel glanced around again, this time with warmth. This place suits you. It's quiet, she said. So are you, he replied. But you never were empty. Her chest tightened. Compliments from him felt dangerous, even when spoken softly. I should have called before I came, he said. I shouldn't have put you in this position. Emily surprised herself by answering quickly. I don't regret opening the door. That truth hung between them. The rain began to slow, like it was listening. Outside, the world moved on as usual. Inside, Emily felt something shifting, subtle but real. She didn't know what this meeting would lead to. She didn't know if it would bring closure or reopen something she wasn't ready to face. All she knew was that the choice to let him in had already changed the night. And maybe, quietly, it had changed her too. The door hadn't just opened for Daniel. It had opened to questions Emily wasn't sure she could ignore anymore. The night was quieter now, but the tension between Emily and Daniel hadn't eased. The rain had slowed to a drizzle, leaving the streets slick and reflective outside, and inside, every second seemed louder. Emily watched him from the couch, noticing the slight slump in his shoulders, the weight in his eyes, the kind of tired that only life and choices could leave behind. He had come into her life suddenly, unexpectedly, but the truth was she had been waiting for this moment without knowing it. Daniel finally stood, stretching slightly as if to shake off the years and distance between them. I can't believe I'm here, he said softly, moving slowly through the living room. He looked at her furniture, the small details of her life photos on the shelves, the books she kept on the coffee table, the tiny plant by the window. You've built a beautiful life, he admitted, and it wasn't a casual comment. There was admiration and longing in his voice. A recognition that this woman before him was the same one he had once loved and someone he didn't fully understand until now. Emily nodded, feeling a flutter of emotion she hadn't anticipated. I had to, she said simply. I had to build something for myself. She avoided looking directly at him, afraid that her gaze would give away more than she intended. But Daniel didn't seem to mind. He understood the need for silence, for space, for the tension that hung in the room like a tangible thing. They moved slowly into conversation, not forcing the past, but letting it surface naturally. Daniel spoke about his years away, about the work and choices that had kept him moving, never settling. Emily listened, nodding as she realized how much she already knew. How much of him she had carried in her memory, even when she told herself it was over. He spoke with honesty, without exaggeration, without trying to rekindle or manipulate. It was raw and simple, and it drew her in. I don't know what I expected coming back here, Daniel admitted finally. Maybe a stranger. Maybe anger. Maybe nothing. But I couldn't leave without seeing you, without understanding what we left behind. Emily felt a lump form in her throat. She wanted to look away, to hide the emotions that were pressing too close to the surface. I never stopped wondering about you, she whispered, almost to herself. I tried, but... She trailed off, letting the pause speak for her. He took a careful step closer. I thought about you every day, Emily. Not the fantasy of us, but you, the real you. How you'd laugh, how you'd fight for what you believed in, how you kept moving even when things were hard. Her heart tightened. The admiration, the regret, the truth, all of it pressed against her chest. She realized that Daniel had come not to fix anything, but to face the truth alongside her. That honesty was dangerous because it invited feelings she had spent years controlling. But it was also intoxicating, a reminder of the connection that had never fully died. Emily stood slowly, walking toward the window, her hands pressed lightly against the glass. Outside, the street lamps reflected off the wet pavement, creating patterns of light that felt almost magical. And now, she asked quietly, "What do we do now?" Daniel joined her, standing a step behind, hesitant but steady. "I don't know," he admitted. "I just know I wanted to see you. I wanted to be honest. I wanted closure, maybe. Or maybe a chance to see if there's more left." She turned to face him, searching his eyes. There was no pressure there, no expectation. Just honesty. And that honesty broke something open inside her. She realized that it didn't matter how careful she had been, how controlled her life had seemed. Some truths couldn't be ignored. Some feelings didn't fade, no matter how much time passed. "I've been strong for so long," she said. "But seeing you again, it reminds me that being strong isn't the same as being okay." Daniel reached out slowly, stopping just short of touching her hand. "I'm not here to make you hurt," he said. "I'm here to tell you the truth. About me, about us, about everything we never said." Emily felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. The kind of tears that come not from sadness alone, but from the mix of longing, regret, and the possibility of something new. "And what if the truth changes everything?" she asked. "Then at least we know," he replied. "At least we don't live with what ifs anymore." For a long moment, they stood there, close but careful, letting the silence hold them. The past was not erased, but it was acknowledged. The years of separation were not ignored, but they were no longer walls. Emily realized that she had invited him in, not just physically, but emotionally. And the act had opened doors she hadn't realized were still locked. Daniel checked his watch, and the reminder of reality hit them both. "My flight's early," he said quietly, a soft tension in his voice. Emily nodded, though her chest ached. "Then you should rest. You have a long day ahead." He moved toward the door but stopped, turning to face her one last time. "Emily, tonight. Coming here? It meant more than you know. It's not about fixing the past. It's about seeing it clearly. About knowing what was real." She met his gaze, steadying herself. "It meant more than I expected," she admitted. He smiled softly, a quiet, vulnerable thing that made her chest tighten even more. "I don't know what comes next," he said. "Neither do I," she replied honestly. And then he stepped outside. The door closed softly behind him, leaving Emily standing there. The quiet of the night returning, but nothing inside her felt quiet anymore. She leaned against the door, heart racing, mind spinning. Nothing had been solved. Nothing had been decided. And yet everything had shifted. Emily realized the truth. Inviting him in hadn't just been about a single night, a single conversation. It had been about opening herself to possibility, to feelings she thought she had buried. The simple act of sharing space, of acknowledging their history, had changed the rhythm of her life. She felt alive in a way she hadn't for years. She thought of all the nights she had spent alone, thinking she was fine, thinking she was safe. Tonight had shown her that safety and peace were not the same as connection, not the same as truth. Sometimes the brave thing wasn't holding the door closed, it was opening it. Even if it meant risking heartbreak, even if it meant facing what had been lost, even if it meant standing face to face with someone she had loved and still did. The room felt warmer now, despite the chill outside. She walked back to the couch, sat down, and let herself breathe. She didn't know what the next day would bring, didn't know if Daniel would stay in her life or leave again. But she did know one thing. Tonight had shifted something fundamental. Her heart had opened, her past had been acknowledged, and the possibility of the future was no longer a question mark. It was a door slightly ajar, waiting for the next step. And Emily, for the first time in years, realized she was ready to step forward, even if just a little, into the unknown. Because sometimes the bravest choice isn't a decision. It's a moment. I knock. A choice to invite someone in. And when that happens, nothing stays the same. The night stretched on, quiet outside, full inside. The rain had stopped, but Emily felt it still in the ache of memory. The thrill of possibility and the quiet knowledge that life had just begun to shift in ways she had never imagined. She didn't cry. She didn't laugh. She just felt, and in that feeling, she knew everything had changed. The door remained closed now, but Emily understood something deeper. Doors open, doors close, but what matters most is what happens in the space between. And tonight, that space had been filled with truth, honesty, and the quiet awakening of hearts that refused to let go. She sat back, eyes closed for a moment, letting the weight of the night settle. The future was uncertain, as it always is. But for the first time in years, she didn't mind. Because some nights aren't about certainty, they're about awakening. And tonight, Emily Carter had awakened.